And Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. We've touched on USC with Ryan Abraham, the Trojans, and Lincoln Riley. And how about LSU once you kind of got recovered from maybe Lincoln Riley? Okay, slam bam, here we go with Brian Kelly and LSU. And Mike Scarborough, Tiger Bait, good friend of the show, great friend of the show, joins us on Zoom. Mike, what's been the reaction in Baton Rouge?
I think initially a little bit of shock. I think a lot of people wanted the younger 38-year-old gunslinger from the Big 12. But then I think that quickly turned to, well, he obviously doesn't want to play a coach in the SEC, and he's taking the easy route. And then once you've digested that, then you see the financial package that he got, and you're like, no, that financial package is beyond insane, hideous, disgusting, whatever you want to say. College sports is out of hand. And certainly Brian Kelly's getting a big package as well. But, man, that Lincoln Riley deal was something else. But I think there's a lot of excitement here. He just landed at the airport about 30, 45 minutes ago. And I had the LSU marching band at the airport, and a lot of excitement. But, I'll tell you what, something very telling. I just did an interview with Mike Frank with Irish Illustrated. They've got a problem at Notre Dame. That he said that this is one of the main reasons why he believes Brian Kelly left for LSU. The transfer portal is going to be a very big problem for Notre Dame because of their curriculum and the way that you have to start there as a freshman and go through your courses, that it is not conducive for transfer students to come in and fill holes on a football team. And that's going to be a big, big problem, and I don't know how they're going to address it.
Mike, looking at Ed Orgeron and Les Miles, the last two football coaches, and the kind of off-the-field problems that they've had, is going and getting a coach like Brian Kelly, who I know, cannot, given some of the incidents of his past, stand on some sort of moral high ground when it comes to college football, but at least organizationally he appears to be better. Is that one of the things that Scott Woodward, aside from landing a whale, set out to do, is find a coach who is organizationally better than Les Miles and Ed Orgeron? Yeah,
I think one of the things that I said early on was, after what LSU's been through with the last two coaches, the last thing they want is a cartoon character or someone that I basically said they want Lord Cleaver. And and he certainly presents himself that way most of the time. Coach Kelly's 60 years old. I think they need a bit of a throwback, a guy who's going to be, that's not going to suffer fools. And so I think that's very much a positive. I think another thing is, one of the things that have been getting dinged about LSU lately, at times, a lot of people would accuse LSU of being soft. And so we're going to see if he brings a strength and conditioning coach with him, who's considered maybe the best in the country. And but whether he comes with him or not, there's one thing that he wants is a tough and strong football team. And LSU saw firsthand in two bowls in the last 10 years where they faced Notre Dame, where they got two losses to a team that really wasn't as talented as them, but they were better prepared and played in a lot more physical manner, despite the fact they didn't have all the weapons or the difference so-called difference makers that LSU had. They beat LSU in two bowl games under Brian Kelly.
Mike, was that Lincoln Riley to USC news shocking to you? I mean, I know obviously there was a lot of just talk about Lincoln and LSU, but just in terms of that move, as abrupt as it was, and when did Brian Kelly first kind of land on your radar?
I had Brian Kelly on my list from day one.
Cool.
But it was always a back burner deal. And I know, and I found out secondhand from someone who asked the question in a conversation. Brian Kelly had initially told Scott Woodward no about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And so when Lincoln Riley did what he did, we started thinking, okay, is it Stoops? I mean, I talked to Smoak right there Sunday saying, man, is there something with Aranda? Who, can they roll out Matt Campbell and 5 losses? This Matt Rule stuff that's been out there. I said, the only thing that I can think of is, do they go back in on Brian Kelly? I get word yesterday midday that they're back in on Brian Kelly, and then just in an instant he was rolled out early evening that he was the guy. And The Lincoln Riley stuff was like, we did 2 or 3 weeks of shows on him. And what was funny is the Oklahoma people just thought they were mocking all of us down here. They thought it was silly. That I listened to one, probably the site in that market, and they did a podcast the day before Thanksgiving where they said less than 5% chance that Lincoln Riley goes to LSU. And so if you're saying that, you're saying he's 5% he's going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Well, look where he's at now. And so, of course, when I got the word yesterday about Brian Kelly, I immediately called the guys at Irish Illustrated, and they were, kind of took a step back, and sure enough, within 30 minutes, they said, yeah, there's something going on. And then we were on it. So we were one of the first, if not the first, in our market to break the news that there was some action going on there.
Well, I think I probably know that same OU website, and I listened to the post reaction to the Lincoln Riley news, and let me tell you, man, that tune changed, and just total shock on their part. So yeah, I did not see that coming at all.
Well, yeah, it was funny. Is one of my buddies here in the market is, your guys are doing shows, we're doing shows. I just did one here in our studio, and I'm like, look, he said, I got Tim Brando coming on. I said, well, ask Tim a question for me. Last week he said Oklahoma was a better job than LSU, and Lincoln Riley wasn't going anywhere. I said, do me a favor, ask him if Notre Dame's a better job than LSU. Because certainly if you say Oklahoma is, you're going to say Notre Dame, aren't you?
Yeah.
No. It's not, Mike. We've discussed the Blue Bloods, and now there's 2 other ones. Notre Dame's open and Oklahoma's open, and who knows what happens? They'll react. It's crazy. LSU, Washington, USC, even Virginia Tech, among some others. Florida. Have you ever seen anything like it? That mass type big boy programs having this domino effect?
What I'm wondering is, look, it is crazy, but I'm wondering, when does the salary escalation stop? And where is all this money coming from? Is there going to be a bubble that bursts someday soon?
Mike, what about this? If head coaches are now headed to that 8 to 9 or 10 million a year or plus, coordinators are now maybe, I think Aranda got 2.5 or whatever at LSU. What if now the head coaching average, or 3 to 5 or 6 million, becomes coordinators, and there's 2 of them? Think about that explosion of money along with just the head coaches as well.
We're talking about Marcus Freeman. LSU wanted Marcus Freeman to replace Bo Pelini last year, and they lost him to Notre Dame. Now, if Marcus Freeman doesn't get the head coaching job at Notre Dame, and is Luke Fickell end up going to be their guy, does Marcus Freeman, who flat out said he wants to be a head coach one day, does he think, I'm just going to stay here with a young head coach, or is he thinking, no, I'm actually going to go with Coach Kelly to Baton Rouge because he's 60 years old, and I could very well, if we have success there, I could be the heir apparent or the head coach in waiting or something like that, and all of a sudden become the first African-American head coach at LSU football in the years to come.
Mike, I know Scott Woodward, when he goes and hiring a coach, he's looking for whales, elephants. He is lion hunting, whatever you want to call it. How does, though, he navigate the egos in that department all the time look, Brian Kelly, a lot more soft-spoken, but, look, he's a football coach, a big ego guy. Will Wade, we know, has a big ego. And, look, we know Kim Mulkey has a big ego.
Paul.
How do you surf through that water?
Kim's is a little bit about like this big.
Yeah.
Hey,
just a little bit.
Hey, be careful.
I tell you what, guys,
it's going to come back to haunt you.
Know it, and I told David this. In fact, I just loaded up 2 this afternoon, and I'm telling you, watch the numbers on our YouTube channel. Kim Mulkey's views on YouTube for her press conferences, she was outdrawing Ed Orgeron and Will Wade.
But
she's must-see TV.
But did she know about Brian Kelly before she took the job at LSU? It's great. What about the cupboard? Let's talk athletes. Let's talk players. Let's talk who's there. You talked about how it could be tough with the transfer portal involving Notre Dame. Where is LSU, Mike, when it comes to their 2 deep, who they have coming in?
It's a rebuild job. Look, there's a lot of talent, but at the same time, there's a lot of depth. You don't know which. LSU Saturday night against Texas A&M dressed out less than 60 players. I think it was like 58, 59 maybe. And so you know the transfer portal, you're going to lose some there. Yeah, you can get the 25 plus 7 this recruiting year, but it may take you 2 recruiting classes. And depending on what the NCAA does, do they give you another 7 next year? What's going to be permanent in that? I'm sure you guys have covered that. But how do you get back to 85? And with the transfer portal, and are we going to be looking back on this 2 or 3 years from now? And it's basically they're going to have to up you to 95, but full well knowing you're never going to reach that number. Or do you get a bigger transfer portal number given to you? I don't know what the fallout of that's going to be. How bad is that eventually going to hurt high school kids from getting spots on rosters? I just did that interview with Mike Frank from Notre Dame. Look at Logan Diggs, their prize running back. He's from New Orleans. Well, now is he a free agent? He's going to transfer in LSU? Because I can tell you right now, if he transfers LSU, he's LSU's best running back next year.
Mike, thank you, buddy. I know that it's great for your site. It's great for our show. It's unbelievable. The numbers are fantastic. Good luck weaving through it all and all the other stuff that comes with it, with who joins the team, who transfers in or out, and, of course, National Signing Day coming up in 2.5, 3 weeks. Love to have you on whenever we can, Mike. Thank you.
Anytime. I love what you guys do. I watch you all the time, and I'm loving seeing the growth of y'all's channel. So thanks for having me on. Talk soon.
You've been a part of that too, Mike. Thank you. Mike Scarborough, TigerBait.com.
Yeah, I was thinking about asking about Aranda in particular, but just maybe some other time, and quite frankly, it doesn't even really matter at this point. I mean, I think it's obvious, too, when you're going out and you're hiring Brian Kelly that, Woodward was going, real big. I mean, there was all the Jimbo talk initially, then it was Lincoln Riley, and then it was Brian Kelly. So, that's the thing about the coaching rumor mills is just because someone gets mentioned doesn't mean they're actively involved or doesn't mean they're even interested, which could have played a role in it as well. Man, just fascinating, and I'm glad that report yesterday. Cause, what do people get out of the fake reports? I mean, is it just is the attention really that satisfying? That
especially when
you're like, hey, I'm just lying about something, but 1,500 people press like on it, so I feel validated. What? I mean, I don't get the appeal of it.
Especially if you're going to be fake whatever, or you're not even getting credit for you can't even.
No,
I'm the guy who said Matt Campbell's going here. Okay, you lied about that.
You just lie about it just to maybe be right. But the people that do it intentionally just to get the attention. I'm just wired different. I just don't understand that. But there was that report that he was making $15 million a year, and I was like, what in the world? And I'm glad that was not true when all was said and done, because I mean, if Saban's getting out, what was it, $5 million more than Saban gets, or $3 million more than Saban gets? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, because then what you have to do, if you're Alabama, whether you want to or even if Saban, you have to then bump him, and then you have to bump Ryan Day, and then you have to bump somebody else. It's going to happen. And I ask, in fact, because we recorded Mac Rhodes, another little tease, he's coming up next. What does this do? And how does that maybe affect those schools that can't really go to that 8 to 10 or 12 or whatever million a year for a head coach? And I love this answer because, well, he was very raw and real and insightful with it.
Would it even be possible to have a year like this next year? You'd have to have Ohio State open up. You'd have to have, golly, I mean, who else would you even, I mean, there's no way.
I brought this up to somebody, and then Ryan Abraham brought this up. You have heard a few of the whispers about Ryan Day and the Chicago Bears. Are they true? I don't know, but you've heard that. Harbaugh just solidified himself for as long as he ever wanted, maybe was going to be there anyway. But, again, Sarkisian, what if next year they go 4-8 again or 5-7? What if they don't get out of the toilet with what was this year? And I wish him the luck that he's okay.
You'd have to have a bunch of retirements to even come close, because there's not enough premier big boy head coaching hot seats to even come close to this year. I mean, my God, we're talking about 8 to 9.
Well, and think about it. The guy who was slated to be maybe the hottest and the biggest job took himself well off of it on Saturday in Jim Harbaugh. So look, Michigan's.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's well off of it now. He's not even he didn't just push pause. He's well off the hot seat in Michigan now.
I was thinking maybe next year you could have Miami. You could have Oregon if Cristobal were to, obviously that would take a lot. You could maybe have a Miami, Oregon, some combination, but nothing's going to touch, or Ohio State maybe, but even those three wouldn't touch this year. I mean, that's how insane it is.
We got to get to Mac, but I'll say this. I sat there and we covered a game that was intense with Baylor getting past Texas Tech, and that's what it was. And then the rest of the day, watching Michigan beating Ohio State at the same time, and then watching Alabama Auburn, and then Oklahoma State, I'm like, I needed to sit down and smoke a cigarette. And then you have Lincoln Riley hit you, and then you have Brian Kelly hit you. And now Oklahoma and Notre Dame have to react. It has been, I've never seen it before. It has absolutely been one of a kind. And then if you think about it, it almost feels like times 10 with Texas and Oklahoma's story back in late July, because that rocked the college football world. When we come back, Mack Rhodes, mini